Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and supported ministries and or nonprofits. Some of this content may be adult in nature, so please use discretion while watching with children. So anyways, here he is. He's back in the saddle. It's been a while and we've missed him with one of our friends. It's Randy Baar, the Spirit in America, with guest Tony Hammock. Take it away.
Hi, folks. Yeah, it's been a while. I've had some health issues. I'm 67, and that's the way it goes. I give it to the Lord and do the best we can. But I'm glad that I'm still able to come. We're going to have a new format. I'm going to come every other week if I'm okay. And we'll have someone else in it, and we'll just keep going so we don't have to miss. But I'll enjoy being here. Maybe next time or the time after that, I'm going to talk about when bad things happen to good people, so to speak. A lot of Christian pastors don't like to talk about that, but it does happen. But you have Jesus. It's a huge thing. I can tell you a lot more about that, and I'm going to do a whole show on that, either next time or 2 times. But today we have Tony Hammock with us. Hammock, I'm sorry. And I met you at Paul's, I think.
I believe so.
Paul Collins, he's the founder of Acts Ministry, and he's a financial advisor. And you know what? I could sure use that. And when I'm so unashamed almost of myself, when I became a Christian, I just went off here and there and here, and I didn't have any idea of what to invest or anything. And I thought, well, I can't invest in anything. And I just did everything wrong, I think, that you could do, getting in debt and credit cards and all that. But there's a way out. There's always tomorrow. And my wife and I were digging. We're getting the credit cards taken care of, but there's a way to do it. And the Bible talks a lot about it, believe it or not. And the biggest mistake I think I made is when we started our ministry, I was so excited, and I didn't have the money to do what I wanted to do, so we just kept borrowing or whatever, and that ended me. You cannot go against God's word. You can't go against God's word. It won't work. You got to go with his word. And he says, don't be in a debt. So I should have brought the program along as long as we had the funds. But anyway, I won't get into that, but you'll get in trouble if you don't get a hold of your finances. Tony, what do you want to say today?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. How did you get in this? Where did you grow up?
How much time we got?
40 minutes.
Well, no, the short version of it is I'm what they call a Navy brat. My dad was in the Navy, and we lived all over the place, Hawaii, France, Florida, Missouri, California. And about every year and a half, seemed like it was about 18 months, he'd get a new station he had to go to, and we'd move. So as I was growing up, about every 18 months, I was the new kid in school.
Was that hard, moving all the time and having to make new friends and all this?
You know, it was at the time. I mean, you know, all of a sudden it's the middle of the year and you're the new kid in school and everybody's looking at you and all this kind of stuff. But I got to tell you now, you know, looking back on it, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it just was a great experience.
We got to see a lot of places, you know, and just being in the service, I enjoyed going to the different places.
Well, thank you for your service. I heard you were in the Air Force.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the reserves after that, 23 years, but not all active. But I did. I enjoyed going to these different places. It's the way I am, I guess. And I got to bring my wife with me most of the time when it was active, so she liked it too. And for us, it was okay. Mm-hmm. And some people, it's just not made for that, you know, and they find out, but then they can get out after their term, of course. Well, so you were raised at different bases, I take it?
Correct, yeah. Dad was at, let me see, Shape over in Paris, back when Shape was there, before de Gaulle kicked him out, I think it was. And in Florida, it was the Sanford Naval Air Station, which is no longer there. I think it's a little airport or something now. And over in Hawaii, it was Barbers Point. And then he was at the San Diego, I can't remember if that was Miramar or not. But anyway, that's going way back. That's when I was real little and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, he enjoyed it. He got to be eventually, he was an enlisted man. He ended up retiring as an E9, and chief petty officer, and for a long stretch, he was what they called a yeoman. And a yeoman was, like in his case, he was the admiral's writer. So we got to work for a couple of admirals. I can't remember their names. That's, way back in my childhood and stuff, but he really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I remember the different services, they have different language. I mean, the Navy, I talked to Navy guys, and I was like, what are they saying, And we had tech sergeants and master sergeants, and, different things in the Air Force, which is a little like the Army and stuff, but I got a charge out of the different services using their own namings and, platitudes and things. But, well, did your mom come along too then, or?
Oh, yeah. There was a couple times where he had was aboard ship, and obviously we didn't go on those. But, for all the other ones I've mentioned, we went as a family. Great. Well, then, how did the Lord fit into this? Did you go to Sunday school, or did they have Sunday schools at these bases, or how does that work? Well, like when we were in France, they had the American school, and then, of course, you were free to go to any church you wanted and all that kind of stuff. But in my case, when we were in Sanford, Florida, I went to, of all things, a vacation Bible school.
Oh.
And it was during the vacation Bible school that I can remember it almost clear as day, where I just I want to get baptized. It was just one of the lessons, and a couple of the kids that I was, friends with and stuff, and it was so easy just to, make that.
How old were you?
I was 8.
Oh, okay.
Made the decision,
Well, hey,
and
that's great.
And Mom was always the type, she wanted me to, any of us to make our own decision. She didn't want to, baptize us when we were little and consider it done. It was more or less, it had to be our choice.
Okay, folks, I can say this because I worked in home missions for 20 years after I got out of the Air Force. But Vacation Bible School is so neat because you get out of your environment, you got people telling you the truth, and they got neat testimonies and stuff, and the Lord will work through that, the Holy Spirit. And I don't care if you're 8 or 18, I did a lot of teenage camps and everything. We get right down into it. Don't judge anybody or anything. We just want you to have the help, want to have that Lord with you, and be the best thing for the rest of your life and eternity. But if you ever get a chance to have your children go to some good vacation Bible school from a Bible college or a Bible church, or if you're younger and you get a chance, I'd go. It's a lot of fun too. But you get out of your environment, you really hear some neat things, and you can make your own choice, like you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, when did you start going off on your own and get into this financial advising?
Well, fast forward to my last year of college, which would have been 1980 and 81, and I worked at a Bank of America in downtown San Jose, California. And, we had regulars, and there was this one guy that kept coming in, and I liked the size of his deposits, and finally one day I asked him, I said, what do you do? And he said, well, back then they called it a stockbroker. I'm a stockbroker. And I said, really? How do you get to do that? And so he goes, well, you come over and I'll introduce you to our branch manager sometime. So went over and met the branch manager and went through some tests and all this kind of stuff. And one thing led to another, and after about a 6-month courtship, you'd call it, interviews and testing and all this kind of stuff, I got the job. And so back in 1982, I believe it was, is when I started and got all the, licenses and all this kind of stuff you have to do business and stuff. And then moved back to Springfield, Missouri, back in June of '84. Have been there ever since.
So did your schooling just happen to have enough business in it, or what were the qualifications to get the job for education?
Well, back then, to be brutally honest, and it was a lot different than I thought, because, I figured, you'd be a stockbroker and, you have to have finance background and all this kind of stuff. Now, I did have a degree in business administration, and so I'd focused on some of those areas and stuff. But the brutally honest part of it is they were looking for people with sales experience. And that's what got me in eventually is that I got off of the Bank of America job and got a job at Xerox and learned how to sell copiers to businesses and did well at that. And that was the springboard. Once this gentleman saw that I could sell, is when he extended the offer.
They maybe do their own training anyway. Different firms, so you get their way of doing it, or.
Oh yeah, back then, a New York Stock Exchange firm, you had to spend 4 months at the home office. So, like in my case, the firm I started with was a firm called Bateman, Eichler, Hill, Richards. It's no longer in existence. I think it's been through the years merged and all this kind of stuff. And I can't even remember who it may be a part of now. One of the big ones, but. Back then, their home office was down in Los Angeles. So I spent 4 months in downtown LA, 7th and Flower is the little intersection there and stuff, and went through all their courses, all their training, the whole 9 yards. So by the time I was actually eligible, to go into production, I knew all the things backward and forward as far as stocks and bonds and, options and municipal bonds and the whole bit.
See? So, the fact is, whether we know it or not, really, God makes us with gifts and talents and things. And if you don't get into that line of work that way, usually you're not too happy. You need to find your niche, so to speak, or your bent, they call it. Your bent, right? But did you feel right from the start that this is for me, I want to be a financial guy, or I'm good at it, or did you have any internal feelings like that or anything?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was one of those kids that had to work my way through college. And so I've pumped gas, I've worked in retail stores, I've worked in restaurants, I worked at a factory one summer in Visalia, California. So, I mean, I've done a lot of different jobs in order to pay my way through college. And I knew from just some of those experiences that I needed to be in a white-collar type position, and always had an aptitude for numbers and money and things like that. So it was a real nice fit.
Great. Great. Well, folks, I just want to throw something at you. It's out of left field, but I found out, a lot of people like music, and you don't have to be a musician, but it really helps you. We're made that way. We're made, and you look in the Bible, there's hundreds of verses on songs and singing, and we were made to worship the Lord and God and love Him, and then do good works that we are led to do and things. Well, I've come to believe that some of the old music I listened to wasn't really that terrible as far as the lyrics, but it was girl and this and that, But the melodies, I've taken a look at them and rewrote them to honor Jesus, to God. And I get more satisfaction out of that and everything. And I don't believe it's just for someone that has the gift. I don't have any gift in music or TV or anything either. I just got pulled out. God can do anything. He can do anything. And that's why I'm proof. But I encourage you to, some of these singers, they obviously have gifts, and good voices. I mean, Garth Brooks, and you go into Sinatra or whatever, they obviously do. But I believe if we're living in a perfect world, these folks would have wrote music probably and everything to honor the Lord. They got that beautiful voice and they get the gift. That's what it's all about. But guess what? If you can't sing a tune, but you get in your closet and you sing to the Lord, or it'll be perfect to Him. He looks at the heart. So I encourage you to use music. It's really a neat thing, and worship the Lord with it. Find some gospel music you like, or take some different words if you want, like I do, but turn it to Him. You will have a good time. I'm getting old, but I'm seeing that where you can if you tap into your gifts and talents, you're going to be a lot happier, and you're probably going to do a lot better because you'll like what you're doing, so you'll study or whatever, and you'll go into it. But if you say, I got to do this, I got to work at this factory, that's what my dad told me, and you make good money and all that. I see a lot of people very unhappy. They make the money, but they don't like to go to work or anything, and He doesn't want that for you. Well, tell us a little bit. I know you got some things that you want to help people with, and tell them about. so on. I'm not even going to tell you what to say, but I'm thinking of the life insurance and the 7K thing, and something an average person could get started in and probably have some success in the financial.
Well, yeah, and you and I have already done a few things together and talked about this and stuff as far as, you know, the state of our economy and our markets and everything, and the fact that we've got the fiat currency, you know, ever since 1971 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard, we've essentially, the U.S. dollar has been a fiat currency, and now it's, you know, pretty much to the point where it's lost 98% of its purchasing power, essentially. So, you know, a couple years ago, I want to say 2017 sticks in my mind, I got this, I don't want to say it was a vision, but I woke up one morning and I just realized I wanted to, you know, start encouraging folks to look at gold and silver. And I don't mean, you know, like jewelry or something like that. I'm talking about bullion, you know, as an investment that could help their portfolio. In fact, the gentleman I ended up meeting, you talk about God things, I met this very, very good godly person up in Minnesota, a guy named Ryan Long, that has helped me with a lot of my good clients and stuff. And so I learned some strategies, and we put those in place and stuff. But, you know, he calls it wealth insurance. And the reason being is that, you know, we can go back and back test everything, where if you put 10% of your portfolio in gold and silver, you know, usually what you'll see is, and the rest in equities, let's call it the S&P 500, for example, you would see that you would increase your return and drastically reduce your risk. And so in 17, I had a few clients that listened and got on early, and I think we were getting into gold back then at like 1,200, 1,250, something like that. And you know, this morning it's, when I checked, I want to say it was like 1780 an ounce.
Wow.
And it's been as high as 2100. It's just that, you know, like a lot of things in our financial markets, it's volatile. You know, it'll go up 2 steps or 2 cents and it'll come back a cent. And a lot of that's based on supply and demand. A lot of that's based on, you know, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with the strength of the dollar. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that go into it.
It's basically a form of a savings account, isn't it?
It is. And the nice thing about gold and silver, in my opinion, is if we had a situation where the U.S. dollar was just completely worthless. And I mean, there are some countries out there that have already experienced this, you know, Venezuela and Greece and Spain a little bit, and, you know, Turkey's had some issues, and a few others down there in South America, and of course a couple in Africa. But if we did that and you had some gold and silver, you know, preferably tucked away in your house in a safe, you know, you'd have the wherewithal, the ability to still support your family. You know, I mean, because at some point people will be, okay, well, you know, a gallon of gas or a full tank of gas is an ounce of silver.
For those who don't know, I'll take myself for example. Oh, the dollar, we're Americans, dollar, you know. And inflation will go up slowly, but all of a sudden it's $2 for a loaf of bread and it used to be 50 cents, you know. But explain the fiat currency and the problems with that, and what an asset-backed currency would be better.
Well, here's an example I always like to fall back on. I mean, we can do anything, a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, whatever, but in 1965, if you had wanted the brand new Ford Mustang, Lee Iacocca had, you know, come out with this car basically to save Ford at the time, and if you'd wanted one of those, they were $2,500. And, you know, in 1964 and a half, I think, was the first one. But anyway, if you'd gone into a Ford dealership and you had $2,500 in U.S. dollars, you could have bought one. Or you could have had 2,500 ounces of silver, because ironically, in 1965, an ounce of silver was $1. So either way, 2,500 ounces of silver, 2,500, you know, $1 bills, let's say. You've got your Ford Mustang. If you went into a Ford dealership today, let's say when we got through with the radio show, you and I went over to Corwin Ford in Springfield and, you know, was wanting to buy a car. If we had $2,500 in cash, how far would we get?
Couldn't even buy, well, a used car, very old used car.
Exactly, exactly. But if you walked in and you had 2,500 ounces of silver, you do the math, you'd have over 50 grand, and you'd probably have enough to buy 2 cars. And new ones. I mean, you wouldn't, get the V8 with the leather and every option you could get. But if you got a 6 and leather or a cloth interior, those kinds of options and stuff, you could probably get out of there with your 2,500 ounces of silver with 2 Mustangs. I mean, I haven't priced it here lately and stuff, but there for a while last year you could. And the point is, think about it. Back in '65, they were exactly the same. And today, silver is, I looked this morning, I want to say it was right around, I guess, about $26 an ounce on the ask. On the bid, it was just a few cents less. But, and that's just the spot price. The spot price is always the measure people look at, but that's the price that is from the mine to the mint. None of us can ever get spot unless you're a mint. But normally, like the Silver Eagles that you and I have talked about and done some stuff with and everything, they have a little bit of a premium. So, for example, a Silver Eagle now, if you wanted to buy a brand new one, is probably going to be, close to $40 a coin. If you wanted to sell one, it's probably, somewhere around $32. But the point is that's higher, way higher than what the spot is. So, once again, if you walked into that dealership with 2,500 ounces of silver and it was priced at just spot, you'd have enough to buy 2 cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know much, but I look at these graphs, and you look at the dollar, and it's constant. It's being inflated and everything. It doesn't go like this very much anymore. And yet, silver or gold, like you said, they might go up and then go down a little and ride, and it kind of goes with the flow. But it's more of an asset-backed thing rather than the dollar. And that's why I finally decided, well, I'm going to try, even though it's not a lot, but to get into some silver or something, because everybody knows that they're having trouble. And the fiat currency, they just print it if they want it, right? And when you're $20 trillion in debt, you just keep printing more like they are. I mean, it just doesn't take too smart to figure out this isn't going to work,
Well, a couple things. Since we're talking biblical, gold is mentioned in the Bible over 400 times. Silver is mentioned over 200 times. And the U.S. dollar is never mentioned in the Bible. But, the fiat, the definition of fiat, if you're not familiar with that, is basically the only reason it has value is the government says it does. In other words, it's not backed by gold or silver anymore. It's just the U.S. government is saying that's worth $1. And as Randy mentioned, especially since the pandemic started, they've printed another $3 trillion in U.S. dollars. And anytime you print money and just keep printing and printing and printing, it's kind of supply and demand. If you've got a bigger supply of whatever the product is, in this case dollars, it's going to make it less valuable. And so what we're looking at is situation, right? In fact, right now, kind of the struggle that's going on out there is some people are saying, hey, we're headed for inflation and maybe hyperinflation. And then, of course, those other people that are like, well, no, I don't think it's going to be any inflation. But I just saw an article late yesterday. I wish I had thought to print it out or bring it with me and stuff. But if you look at just the last 4 months, and with inflation, there's a couple of different barometers. There's the core inflation, which is, your energy and your food and stuff like that. And then there's the CPI definition, which seems to always change according to the government. But any one of those that you look at over the last 4 months, it's starting to creep up as far as the inflation goes. And even Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, he said that, he was trying to keep inflation about 2%. Well, now he's saying he wants to have it an average of 2%. So he's acknowledging that it's going to be, maybe 4%, and then, you look at the last few months and it was 2%, and, you get into an average type of thing.
Oh, no, I thought I shut that off. Sorry, folks.
That's probably Jay Powell calling us
Sorry
right now.
about that.
Tony, don't misquote me. No,
We're really big time here, aren't we?
But anyway, I mean, the point being is that the inflation could be devastating for some folks. Because, I mean, think about it. We've had 21 million people out of work and just all the other numbers from this pandemic. And all of a sudden now you go to the grocery store and instead of, being able to get the groceries to feed your family for $100, it's $200.
Yeah.
And some of these stimulus checks, I mean, they don't come out when they say they're supposed to. And it, it's tough to file for unemployment and stay on unemployment. And, there's just a lot of folks that are hurting. And, one, that's the reason I like your show and all the shows that Axe Media puts on and stuff is that, I think it gives people some hope, that there is a God, there is a power that, if you turn to it and stuff, you will probably see a way out, a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, and if you just keep, I think when I was young, in my teens, I think we owed about $3 million or something on a debt, national debt, and now it's $20 trillion. If you keep printing that money all the time, there's nowhere for it to go but inflation and time, isn't there? I mean, where's it going to go if they keep doing that?
Well, the only reason I'm not making eye contact with you now, I'm looking, because you said 20 trillion, right? And I don't want to correct you in front of everybody.
I might be wrong, but...
Well, no, there's an app I keep on my phone. It's called the usdebtclock.org. And I'm not trying to, correct you in front of everybody, but I am trying to say it's 28.1 trillion.
Oh, my goodness.
28.1 trillion, folks. And that's just the debt that shows up on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. If you look at all of the entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, supporting our defense, interest on debt, income security, federal pensions, food and agriculture subsidies, and waste and fraud and abuse, basically it's $91.8 trillion.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's just us. That's just the U.S. If you look at the world, that's the interesting thing about what's going on right now. This bubble, as they call it, is every country is pretty much in the same situation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even countries like Germany and Japan, actually there's 7 or 8 of them, that have gone to negative interest rates. And now what that means is like in our world, over here in the U.S. still, we're getting close, but, you've got, let's say, $1,000 and you want to make some interest on it, you take it down to the bank, and let's say these days they're paying, 1%. At least when you pull that money out in a year, you're getting your $1,000 back plus 1%, which would be what, $100. In Germany right now, if you did that, they have negative interest rates. So in other words, you'd put your $1,000 in, and in a year you'd go to pull it out, and it'd be like, $920. But that's what the bank is paying. It's a negative interest rate. And they do that for a couple reasons. One is they're trying to stimulate the economy, so that, some of these folks that need to borrow money to get their businesses going and buy machinery and, all these other things and stuff, they're looking at the interest rates going, holy cow, it's negative. Let's get some more Caterpillars, or let's get some more, John Deere's, or, whatever it is they need to do to get their business going.
Well, I don't want to go here because you get into conspiracy theories and everything, but I don't see how it can go on like this. And even the central bankers or in the monetary fund, the international money, all that, I heard they were looking for a way, at least the ones that control this, to kind of do a reset and just go right back to the way it is, only without all that trouble. Is there anything to that? Have you heard anything? Or do we have to do that, or we're going under, or what?
Well, I mean, I've seen all kinds of articles and theories on that and stuff, and probably the guy that I look to the most for some ideas and guidance and stuff is a gentleman out of Switzerland. His name's Egon von Geyser. He works for Matterhorn Investments, or maybe it's Matterhorn Asset Management. And he puts out a weekly newsletter. And, he's kind of looked into it as far as what the potential is and stuff. And essentially, there probably will be some kind of a reset. It's not going to be pleasant.
No.
And because, it's one thing to say, okay, let's wipe out all the debt. Well, if you wipe out all the debt, you've got all these lenders that, no longer have their asset or their income. So, any way you try and do this, you're going to have some folks that are uncomfortable and losing money. So, the reset I've read a lot about, and I don't think anybody really has a clear idea of exactly how that can happen.
Nobody really knows, but something's got to give.
Yeah, something's got to give.
Well, you know what? It went so fast. Tell us about the main thing you want people to know in 5 minutes.
Well, in 5 minutes, I think you and I were talking about senior life insurance a couple weeks ago, and the reason why is because they have for lack of a better term, they have a final expense policy that's very affordable. They'll insure anybody. There's no medical exam required. You can be either ultra preferred all the way down to guaranteed issue. And then they've also got a program that is kind of a sister program called Legacy Assurance. And for $4 a month, above and beyond the premium for your policy, you can add this Legacy Assurance. And the Legacy Assurance is just absolutely phenomenal. Basically, I'm looking at the little list of benefits of the membership here real quick, but you get locked-in wholesale pricing, and that's pricing on the merchandise, which, if we're talking about final expense, that's going to be your caskets and your urns and the ceremony and everything that goes with it. They have expert negotiators. So if you have this service, and, unfortunately something happens to you, your loved one can use the membership card, which is, they send it to you. Basically, I don't know if you can see it very good on the screen here, but they can call up and say, okay, Joe's passed away, and I see he's got this membership. Can you help me out? And they'll reach out to the funeral home. They'll negotiate the price for the casket. Because I got to tell you, if you go into a normal funeral home, caskets are going to be, expensive, $5,000, $6,000 or more, $1,000. And these folks, I've seen them in some cases I've already experienced with my clients, have been able to get as low as $1,500 for, we're talking really good quality. And urns, they have urns for $99. And I know from, my dad passed away last November 6th, though I had to deal with some of his final arrangements on the 9th of November last year. I could see the prices on the wall, and urns were not listed at $99.
Well, folks, some of you have been through this, but when something happens to your loved one and everything, you aren't in much of a way to do business or anything. Most people just walk into their local mortician and pay them whatever they want. This way is way different than your average insurance. It's not graded. There's all kinds of those out there on TV, and if you get those, if you're older, you're going to pay. But the thing I caught my ear was they know that. They know you're feeling bad. They'll come in, they'll help you, they'll find deals for you and all that, so you can just kind of push all that stuff off on someone to help you. That's different than any insurance I've ever heard of.
Yeah, in fact, they call this the wish team, these expert negotiators and stuff. But the other thing is let's say the husband, the breadwinner of the family, gets one of these, and with this Legacy Assurance, the Legacy Assurance covers the household up to 5 people. So each person doesn't have to have, this $4 membership. And there again, I've already seen that help a few people. There's just all kinds of little things they can do to help out in those terrible times. Because, if you, as Randy said, walk into a funeral home and, your loved one just passed away the day before, you're going to be so emotional if you have nothing in place that, it's probably going to be way more expensive than it needs to be. The other thing they've got real quick is they've got some living benefits. For example, they've got a relationship with a hearing aid company where you can get free hearing tests and then discounts on hearing aids. They've got a relationship with pedors.com, which is shoes for folks that, maybe you've got gout or diabetes or something like that and you need special shoes. You can get 15% off. Telehealth, Teledoc. Through this pandemic, there's been some people that love the ability, if they're feeling bad, they get on the phone with a board-certified doctor in their state and or on Zoom, and within minutes they have a clear idea of what it is their ailment is, and they've got a prescription called into their local pharmacy. And then, of course, there's a final wishes planner that comes with all this, so you can have everything, in black and white.
Well, folks, if you want to know more about this, you can call here to the station. Matt will give you Tony's number and everything, or you have a quick website or everything you want to give the folks in case they want to talk to you about this?
Well, I mean, my number's 417-755-0700, and you're always welcome to call me or text me. And as Randy said, Matt or Jason, either one know how to reach me. So, give them a shout or a call or a text, and they'll forward it to me. And Randy, for example, because this is one of those things. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it on the way over here, and not to sound snooty or anything, but, I deal through my career with some folks that are some pretty high net worth folks. And I get more good feelings from helping somebody with one of these policies because I know it's helping them, it's helping their family, as compared to some rich guy that's now got a better annuity or he's got a better, bond or whatever the case is, I mean, I really think that these have a nice place in this world as far as trying to help out the common guy.
Sure is different.
Oh, yeah.
Well, folks, it's not fun to talk about some of this, but you know what? We need to. We want everything to go smooth. We don't want anyone to lose so much money they go in debt or go bankrupt or anything. So I encourage you, if you're younger or even if you're older, look at this and see what you can start to do to get out of debt. The Bible's right. When you're in debt, you just feel sick, don't you? You're in debt to that debtor, If you can get out, it's like, I'm free. So we hope that you enjoyed this and that you can get a hold of Tony or someone and get your life straight. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.